had the inkling back in 2020 that data centers were going to kind of be a big deal. And looking, I was right, but it was kind of interesting. But I'm glad I transitioned into this space. I think it's got a huge runway. It's not going anywhere. Because not only do we have AI, but right behind it is quantum computing, and then whatever the next name for the next kind of computing there's going to be. I just think this industry has just a long runway, and we're not going to even get close to figuring ourselves out, even with AI, much less anything else that comes after AI, right? It's going to take us 10 years to figure out AI and all the impacts that happens there. All right, everyone. Hi, this is Amy Polvado. I am the chair of the US Proptech Council, the founder and CEO of Facilimax, and the host of the Data Center News Show. And you are watching the Data Center Go-to-Market podcast.
Hi, it's Joshua Feinberg, host of the Data Center Go-to-Market podcast. I'm thrilled to be welcoming a very special guest. Joining me today is Amy Polvado, who is the chair of the US Proptech and host of the Data Center News Show, as well as founder and CEO of Facilimax. Amy, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is great.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. Really, really looking forward to it. So you have three different companies, three different initiatives that you work on. One of which is 100% focused on the data center. I know the other two have a lot of connections with the data center industry as well. So I think a fantastic place to start would be, could you give me a little bit of the backstory on how you started the PropTech, US Proptech Council, the backstory behind the Data Center News Show, as well as Facilimax?
So I guess I started Facilimax first. So I came from the real estate industry. I've been in commercial real estate since 2003 when I started a construction company. So I was a founder of a construction company, and we were generally building retail stores. So that's kind of where we started. And I kind of created that company. We started in 2003. By 2014, we were in 16 states doing projects. And along that journey, started real estate investing. So I became a real estate investor in 2008. And then in 2010, became a private equity real estate firm owner. I was syndicating deals and putting those together, and it just kept, had a fund at one point, and just kept on the journey of real estate investing and development, and then got into technology in 2019. I started my tech company, but I really didn't get going until 2021. So Facilimax came out of my real estate background, and partly it was born because I couldn't manage my investments very well because I just didn't have all the data that I needed. So it was trying to catalog and create a system where I could access all the building data that would make my building performance much better than what it was. So that's kind of how I started Facilimax. And then I started, and then I'll stay on Facilimax. I transitioned into the data center industry because when I launched in 2024, I had taken a really good. There's a real estate recession. I mean, it just was. And so I'm taking a really hard look at, okay, what real estate asset class needs this type of data that we're creating, this type of platform that we have created, and who needs it the most, basically. Because I started in the multifamily industry, and it was a nice to have, it wasn't a necessity. So we looked at operations that have critical operations, so like critical environments, data centers, hospitals, pharma. We looked at a couple of them, and we found that the data center industry probably was the best place to go because of the transition that's existing now from a traditional data center to the AI workloads. And there's got a lot of change that's happening, and that our data would be extremely useful in. So that's kind of how we ended up in the data center industry. So I've been drinking from a fire hose for about 8 or 9 months, trying to learn the industry. So that's kind of where we got there. I started the council and because when I had gone from real estate investing to technology, I was looking for a group and I couldn't find one. So in real estate investing land, there's a million groups. So there's a group for every group's group, like no joke, in real estate industry. And so when I got into prop tech, I was like looking around and I'm like, where's the group? Like, I understand, why is there no group here? And so that's how it got born. And I really got going with it early of 2024. It quickly grew. I talk about product market fit, like it quickly grew. And so now we're at about over 1,000 members, and we have 20 chapters that are launching. And we have a lot of working groups inside of the PropTech Council. One of them is a data center forum for all the PropTech building or infrastructure technologies that are built out for the data center industry. So that's how we got there, because we're really agnostic to any sort of real estate. It doesn't matter. The PropTech Council, it doesn't matter. And then I started the Data Center News Show because I really wanted to draw attention to the technology around the industry, around the data center industry as a whole. And you can't really understand technology unless you understand the industry. So the Data News Show was born. And I've been very lucky. I've had some very great guests that come on the show. And it's part my education and a part way for me to give back, because I'm the moderator. I just ask questions. I'm like, what do you mean? And what does that mean? And what are you talking about? And so I get educated every week because my guests come on the show and they're like, oh yeah, because it's this and this and this and this. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Well, let me ask a dumb question. So it's my way to educate myself. But there's a lot of people like me that don't know much about the data center industry. And so I'm asking questions for them. I mean, I'm starting to learn and getting more educated, and I feel like I'm getting there. But it's been a great experience starting the show, for sure. And just, I mean, if you're starting a podcast in your industry is fabulous, and it helps you kind of really, especially if you're a tech provider to that industry, it really helps you figure out what the problems that the industry is facing and what's happening, and you get to meet a lot of people. So it's been great. So that's kind of my long-winded answer to my 3 things I'm working on. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. A lot of people don't realize with the podcast is exactly what you figured out. It's a phenomenal research tool. Yeah, you're having a little bit of lead generation, a little bit of accelerating, you're building some relationships, you're creating evergreen content. But when you look in aggregate over what you collect over 10, 20, 30 episodes, like trends just pop out.
Yes.
You don't even need to put them through ChatGPT or whatever to look at the trends. It just starts to become like, oh, this is really interesting. I've talked to a dozen people and sustainability. Oh, I keep noticing this trend where there's these American expats living in Europe, and they're far more likely to care about sustainability than they're like, you notice strange things that just, you start to see common connections on that almost, it's like Gartner-like insights. It's crazy how quickly.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I'm so glad I did it. And I'm so glad I'm kind of focused on it. And honestly, I will say, for all the cool things the data center industry is about, like, and it is pretty cool, is there isn't enough podcasts about the data center industry. I mean, like, there's just not. I mean, there's your show, there's my show, there's probably Data Center Dynamics as a show. But comparatively, like, you look across asset classes and the number of podcasts per, somebody needs to do that. The number of podcasts per asset class, right? In real estate, probably multifamily probably has 5,000. And then you have, the data center, she's got I don't know, a dozen or so. I mean, like, it's really interesting for sure. Yeah.
I look at when people would find time to listen, all those, and I kind of look at the habits of the personas. And okay, there's a bunch of people that probably spend at least 15 or 20 hours a month at the gym or jogging or biking. So plenty of opportunity to listen there. Yeah. The industry is addicted to conferences. So the average person that's working for a mid-sized to a large company is flying somewhere 25 to 30 times a year, probably a minimum of a 3 to 5 hour flight. That's a lot of time to catch up on content.
Yeah, for sure. It is so crazy. I mean, it's been seriously a huge fire hose of like just trying to learn everything that's happening in this industry and the different, and I wouldn't even think this was a data center thing, but PTC, right? It's telecommunications. Who would think that that's a data center conference? But it is. It's one of the biggest ones. And there's Yada, and then there's this, and then there's that, and I'm like going, oh yeah, I got a lot to learn. But it's fun and it's great and it's challenging, and I always kind of like that for sure. Yeah, it's great.
The PropTech Council interests me as well because I saw something similar with sales and marketing professionals in the space. And it's not so much that they're not a core part of some of the mainstream associations in the space. It's just that they're not the primary. And for some of the conferences, if you're not a vendor or sponsor, you may not necessarily be welcome if you're in that category. So yeah, there's a lot of, I talked with someone who's working on something similar to this over in Europe. There's a lot of great professional associations in SaaS for people that are like technology marketers and technology sales. There really hasn't been this emphasis on bringing together best practices for modernizing what it looks like to run go-to-market in the space, which is ironic because everyone's selling AI now. and a lot of the tools are still running as if, get out the BlackBerry and send some fax broadcasts or something like that.
Yeah, I know. Don't get me started. I mean, the real estate industry is so they got to get with the times. It'll be interesting to see when they finally get there. But, it's typical. And it's not just data centers. It's but you would think being so technology forward that the data center industry would be on the edge, doing the coolest thing, latest, greatest thing. And that's what I kind of learned. They're just like everybody else. I mean, they're just like the multifamily guys and the office guys and the industrial people and everybody else who's, selling and leasing space or whatever it may be. They're all using their antiquated little systems, which I find great.
The weird part with it too is with all of the generational turnover in the last 5 or 10 years, you would think that alone would have accelerated change, but it really hasn't. And the strange part is the people that I know that are still working in this industry, they consider baby boomers that are still some working full-time, probably more working as advisors at this stage. They're all on LinkedIn all day.
Yeah.
They listen to podcasts. They speak, they are guests at podcasts. They're on people's webinars all the time. They're totally digitally savvy. So I don't know what the whole back is. It's just resistance to change. I don't know.
No idea. I mean, I think there'll be a lot of, you would think that, and that's what I've kind of seen as PropTech goes, or any sort of technology goes, is the industry attacks the easy things first. So the revenue side first, right? So they'll create solutions around creating revenue because it's the easiest way to justify selling a tech to you. So there would be, we're going to increase your revenues. We're going to streamline revenue operations or whatever it may be. That one's kind of easier. But right now, because of energy and costs and all the other stuff too, the cost side is now becoming more in play, like maintenance and upkeep and reducing your operating expenses. That's a little bit of a harder sell because you can't really justify, if you can, and you can guess, or you can do case studies and say, we can save you up to between this amount and this amount. But for some reason, in the psyche of a human being, it's easier to buy technology that increases your revenue than buying technology that saves you money. I don't know why. I have no clue how that works or why that works, but it does. Yeah.
It depends on who you're selling to. I guess in theory, if a CFO is paying attention to it, they'll care more about costs and less about revenue. I wonder the exact same thing with the massive investments in companies spending $3, $5, $10 million a year in conferences when you do know you could have a great webinar program for one full-time equivalent and a great podcast for your most important persona, probably another full-time person sitting on the marketing or sales enablement side or something like that. But the old habits. So a little over 20 years ago, you're getting started developing, building retail.
Yeah.
And how did you end up in this place in your career? Was this something that you thought about when you were growing up as a teen and when you were in school and college? What led you to this?
I got it honest. I'm a third generation contractor. So my granddad we had a glass company. My granddad had a glass company, and then my dad took it over in 1974. So I can remember riding around the back of the truck and going to job sites with my dad. So, I've been in construction, kind of grew up in construction. So it wasn't a hard lift. Like it was easy for us to kind of go there. And that guy I was married to at the time wanted to start a construction company. I was like, I know how to do that. That's fine. I can help you there. Right. So that's kind of how it came to be. He was working for his uncle in a construction company there and just wanted to start his own thing. And I'm like, well, I know how to do that. I know how to do construction and project management and managing the invoicing and all the other stuff. I did it. Been there, done that, did it. So that's kind of how I came to be. But so going from construction to real estate investing, though, that was a little bit bigger of a leap, even though you would think it'd be natural course of business, but it wasn't. And it was learning a whole new set of, just I'm used to coming into after people have bought and doing real estate transactions and acquisitions and all that. And over time, I've probably done about 70, 80 transactions. I mean, you learn how to do it over time, but it was challenging, but I like challenges. I like new things. I like looking at, I'm an entrepreneur, right? So I like doing cool new things and making those things better. So yeah, for sure. But that's how I ended up there. And then, just always looking for opportunities, and the data center industry is a huge opportunity at the moment. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, like 10 years ago when I first started pivoting from IT services into the data center space, you'd be hard pressed to find people outside the industry that even had heard about data centers. And all of a sudden, last 3, 4, 5 years, because of Sam Altman, largely that's where it really took off. Otherwise, it was something that the big REITs would show up on CNBC or Bloomberg for their quarterly reports. And that was about it. It wasn't like an everyday thing.
Yeah, no, I know. I remember I started looking at them back in 2020. And okay, this is going to be like a big deal. And I just don't know why. Don't ask me. I was looking at the small ones, and I'm like, when this is going to turn into a big deal, I probably need to learn. And then I just got busy and kept doing my other sort of developments, and they kind of kept me busy. But I had the inkling back in 2020 that data centers were going to kind of be a big deal. And looking, I was right, but it was kind of interesting. But I'm glad I transitioned into this space. I think it's got a huge runway. It's not going anywhere. Because not only do we have AI, but right behind it is quantum computing, and then whatever the next name for the next kind of computing there's going to be. I just think this industry has just a long runway, and then we're not going to even get close to figuring ourselves out, even with AI, much less anything else that comes after AI, right? It's going to take us 10 years to figure out AI and all the impacts that happens there. So yeah, for sure.
A lot of innovation coming.
Yep. Yeah. And I think it's an opportunity too in the data center industry is for small little startups like me. Like I don't need a whole data center. I need a little blade on a rack, but I'm going to need something, right? If I'm going to go create my little AI solutions or agents or whatever it needs to be, I probably can't do that. I could maybe do that in my garage, but I don't really want to do it in my garage, right? So I want to be able to use something, an edge data center, something close by that I can, build, but I don't want to go buy GPUs either. So I just want to borrow somebody else's. And the only really way to do that is to have these co-locators that are willing to take on us little small people, right? We're not the primo tenant, right? We're probably not even very credit worthy, but we could turn into something, and it could be a good business model for some of the co-locators or edge data centers that allow us to do smaller, leases that can maybe eventually grow over time as they scale, right? I mean, I think it would be great because, I'm very lucky. I'm a part of Nvidia's program, and that is fabulous. And the best thing about it is you get the GPU time for free. I mean, that's the best thing ever is you get that time. Oops. And then it's from that point on, it's, but I'm running out of my credit. So I'm like, oh, now what am I going to do? And I can't afford to lease out a whole rack, so it's interesting. It's an interesting dilemma, and I'm not the only one. So, yeah.
I saw Nvidia is looking to acquire cloud service providers so it can get into that business, I guess, to compete more directly with like AWS being in the AI as a service kind of business. So
That does not
Interesting.
surprise me at all. Not at all that Nvidia would do that. That made me, because they probably realize it too. I think it's Nvidia. I'm surprised. All of the big boys are Google and everybody else isn't doing it, right? From Oracle even, that anybody with any sort of means should be creating something like this. And I think it's going to be really cool, and it's going to lead the next set of development for the next set of AI startups, and how we change certain things. And even if it's not, because I think a lot of the AI agents or stuff that's getting built now, and the AI automations, they're being housed locally on whoever they're building that agent for, right? So if it's for a hospital, or if it's for an insurance company, or if it's for whoever, those AI agents get built, and then they deploy on the insurance company servers, right? So they deploy there. So then you're going to have to upgrade all of those kind of things, and it's going to be interesting to see where it goes, and how the impacts have, like how quickly all these data centers that can't handle AI workloads are going to have to turn so they can handle AI workloads, right? I think that's going to be interesting for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of planning that needs to be done to figure out like what the best uses. Retrofitting, in some cases, some will become edge for more conventional workloads. There's always been this kind of hand-me-down mentality throughout the industry where like one of the hyperscalers tires of a facility, so they sell to the next best use case, which might be a national operator. The national operator gets tired of that. They sell to a regional or local. Someone always wants it. The unfortunate part with the musical chairs is the local colocation operator. Is there still someone that would take it for office space? I don't know. That's a whole separate real estate conversation.
For sure.
What I'm really curious about, Amy, is for where you are in your career. You're at this place where you've had all these amazing experiences with all different facets of construction and development, and now growing a SaaS company, growing a membership association. What advice would you give to someone that's maybe a teen thinking about like what they want to do career-wise? They've heard a little bit about your background. They're curious about some of these less technical careers in digital infrastructure. What would you talk about over coffee or lunch?
I mean, if they're wanting to get into the data center industry, depending on, I think there's just a whole lot of avenues in which I think the industry needs help. I mean, it's just even from a site selection standpoint, you could take your real estate background and use it for site selection for new developments. You can do it from a real estate operator, or even construction, real estate operations perspective. I think, leases are leases or leases or leases. I mean, there might be nuances to a lease, but you can learn, how to kind of navigate some of that kind of stuff and just learn. I think because I went from retail and multifamily and hospitality, kind of the stuff that I was building, and I started pivoting into the data center industry. Well, yes, there's differences for sure. There's a hell of a lot more infrastructure, and understanding electrical requirements and all the equipment that surrounds a data center and all the inputs into that. And if you're going from a non-critical operation environment to a critical operation environment, there's a lot to learn, and there's that kind of stuff. But I think it's worthwhile if you really want to understand this industry. And the coolest thing that I found is everybody's so welcoming and so nice. Everybody's like, well, I can call up connect with somebody on LinkedIn, and they are happy to sit there and share with me, like, oh, what are you working on? What are you doing here? And all I've not really, and this is kind of like, everybody that I've talked to has been fairly nice, and they're willing to share and willing to help. And what do you do working on here? What are you doing there? And I just really haven't run into a lot of rude people. Like I haven't. So I've been pretty lucky, I guess, in that kind of sense. But I don't know. But generally that's and when I was talking to other people, they're like, no, we're generally fairly nice people. We're willing to share. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that's cool. In most real estate, people get territorial and they don't want to share what they've got going on or what they got cooking or what gives them a competitive advantage or this, that, and the other. But I think it's been pretty interesting. So I think if you if you transition into this industry, you'll find that it's pretty welcoming, and the people are pretty welcoming, and they're willing to share and help you. Partly because they need more people. There's not enough people. They're like, oh, hallelujah, we got someone. We got a live one. And they're willing to come help. But I think, especially, and I hate to say this, all my multifamily people will kill me, but if you're a multifamily technician and you know how to do HVAC and electrical, go be a data center tech. You're going to get paid like 3 times more. Like, seriously. Now everybody hates my guts. I'm getting stabbed in the back virtually from all my multifamily people, but there are not enough good technicians anywhere. There's a labor shortage. And so, it's kind of interesting for sure. But, I think it's been a good experience transitioning over and just really, truly learning from the industry, and people are pretty welcome. So it's great. Nice and generous with their time.
Yeah, I think the real estate and the investor side of data center, of DCRE or industrial real estate, is very social, very friendly, probably even more than some other segments within the industry. I think also, like you mentioned, a lot of people don't realize that you don't have to be a technologist or even a facilities engineer to find a place. And I mean, there's 57 different segments that we track within this ecosystem, and even within construction.
The Data Center Go-to-Market podcast is sponsored by DCSMI, elevating the role of sales, marketing, and go-to-market GTM professionals in the growth of the data center industry. To stay informed about upcoming episodes, make sure that you subscribe to the Data Center Sales and Marketing newsletter on the DCSMI website that can be found at www.dcsmi.com. Again, that URL is www.dcsmi.com.
Yeah. There's a lot of different parts of working for potentially with a GC or any of that ecosystem. And you're right, site selection is becoming really nuanced as well, because it's joined at the hip with power, like whether it's grid availability or whether you're working with an alternate source.
And you almost have to be a Jedi or a ninja to find out where you're have like the insight. It feels like that. Like in order to find out where there's going to be power, it's like, you have to be rubbing elbows with the power, the utility companies, and truly getting a true understanding, because nobody knows. I think there's more and more data sources out there that will be helpful as far as, power generation. And I think that'll be super useful to the industry. So but I also think on the site selection side, a lot of people are starting to get wind of that, these data center people will pay a lot of money for a land that has power, right? And so then it becomes the opposite problem, where you get all these, my land could be a data center. And you're like, no, it really can't. It's like, nice try. I mean, it's so funny because I used to do site selection. I was a developer. So this is pretty easy for me. And I built out an AI tool that helps me do this. And so people will send me their stuff and I'll like check it out. And sometimes I don't even need to run the AI tool. Someone sent me something the other day and I'm like, it's right next to a river. It's in the floodplain. This is not a data center site. How hard can this be? Like, y'all, come on. Like, I'm like, no. I don't care that it's got 5 gas lines on it. It doesn't matter. It's right next to a river. Like, no one's going to build a data center in a floodplain. Sorry.
There were briefly some conversations. It was pre-pandemic, probably in the mid to late 2010s. I think it started with the Sears headquarters in Chicago, potentially being repurposed. Do you see much legs to the idea that shopping malls collapse and have a new renaissance being developed for industrial, for data centers?
I think they're trying to do everything they can for malls. They like turn them into anything. If they have the power, right? If we're going to so the biggest thing, and this has always been my thing, is you're going to have to reinforce whatever foundation you're sticking those racks on, right? Because they're super heavy now. They're super dense and super heavy. When I was watching GTC and Jen Wong came out, and he said that the rack was like 2.5 tons, a rack. And I'm like, Yeah, I'm just like on those Blackwell, whatever. Like, I'm just like, okay, no existing building today has a foundation that can handle that load. There's nobody that has that unless they're, driving. It was for a maintenance shop for 18-wheeler tractor trailers or something, something that's super heavy, but nobody's engineered a foundation to handle that. So you're going to retrofit something, you're going to have to do all sorts of reinforcement to it in order for it to handle it and the weight of that. And I just find it's interesting. It's interesting to see where that's going to go, but that's going to be a huge issue on how you reinforce them, unless they're just going to magically become lighter. Like, come on, Nvidia, make them lighter. Like, why do they have to be so heavy? I don't understand. Why do they have to make them so heavy?
I had someone on last fall from a company named Pronomic. They make equipment that helps to move servers around. There's another company I know from Phoenix, Serverlit. And they've been around for probably decades at this point. And the whole reason they existed was to prevent dropping servers that were tens of thousands, probably now in the hundreds of thousands, and massive workers' comp, back injuries from lugging these devices around.
Yeah. Yeah. So same thing. When I, way back in the day, before I was a construction company, I worked at Applied Materials. And so they had these big pieces of equipment, like they build chips in them, right? So they're huge. And so what they would do is they found like these lugging these things around, but they were air powered. So they're built in clean room, right? They're built in a clean room. And so you're still getting like the floor from the clean room space, but then they built these little jack lift things. They're pushing air down to lift. So you can use it using air. I thought that was like the coolest thing. That was like in, I don't know, 2002. I mean, it was pretty cool, but you could basically made it super light to move this big, huge piece of equipment around in the manufacturing floor, because that's what they were having to do. Because once you get those chambers on there, those suckers are just heavy as all get out. But yeah, I same thing. I mean, yeah, I think you're commissioning a data center, those things are heavy as hell, and you're going to have to bring it to a place, and let's do that without, killing all the money you spent for that raised floor. That would be nice. I can't imagine. And man, they were talking about raised floors. Now they're going to have to re-engineer all the damn raised floors, because that's going to be a fun time. Yeah. They just got to make the stupid server racks lighter. I don't know how to do it, but they got to make them lighter. I don't know. Crazy.
It's got to be pretty recent, because the last time I would have been involved in physically moving servers around was probably around the time you were building the retail space in the early 2000s. Like a Dell PowerEdge at the time was probably about twice the weight of a Dell desktop. So maybe it was 40, 50 pounds. I don't know when it went completely off the rails to the point where you would think over time it would have gotten lighter.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, they've started making cars out of plastic and make them suckers lighter. Why can't we make a server rack lighter? I don't get it.
Yeah. It seems like something OCP, the Open Compute Project, should be.
Hey, there you go. I'm with you there. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I don't know. It's so it's just, if you're going to stick a bunch of servers in a room, and that foundation's definitely, it's going to have to, all the structural stuff is going to have to be looked at. And if it's an existing building, that's really tough to do. To reinforce an existing foundation is not the easiest thing. And you can raise it up and put a bunch of steel beams across it, but then that load is adding to the foundation that you put onto it. And depending on what's underneath that subsoil, you got other issues, right? You can't just keep stacking stuff on top of it. You're just adding more load. So it's definitely an interesting problem. So I think, I don't know, maybe I don't know where it goes, but I'm sure there's going to be a very smart engineer that's going to figure that out. But that's not going to be my job.
There's going to be a lot of millions of square feet in the US that need that if they're not going to be. There's people talking about doing outdoor versions of the malls, people talking about residential on top of presumably people would that close to public transportation.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's going to be interesting to see where it goes. I think I hope that somebody's telling Nvidia they got to make them lighter. I mean, the thing at some point, somebody's going to have to tell these server people, like, knock it off, man, figure it out. There's not an infinite amount of density that we can have that you can just make it be 8 tons and it'll be okay. No one's going to build to that. So, stop making it so damn heavy. I don't know. No idea. And I wonder what liquid cooling does to it as far as the weight goes, right? I mean, you didn't think the water's that heavy, but you never know. We get through. Maybe that's some of the added weight to it, but
the vats for immersion,
yeah, for sure.
Amy, aside from the hardware being way too heavy, what do you think is the biggest problem that you see in the industry with most of the people that you're talking with right now? Is it just as basic as like what everyone's talking about with the utility grid power? Or is there something more fundamental?
No, I think that there's that. And I think it's the lack of data around it, right? I think if we had more transparency into the grid, into our, but, terrorists also would like to know where our grid is. And, it's like, so you got to pay attention to some of that kind of stuff. So we don't want to give it away, but there's got to be ways to like have the data and it be useful and not let terrorists go bomb our stuff. But I think it's, the more data around the industry to help with certain things. I also think the things that Facilimax is helping with is really around, we're having to retool, redesign, and kind of retrain everyone. If we're going to bring in these AI workloads and we're going to have different kind of server racks and different kinds of, equipment requirements around it, you're going to have to retrain a workforce on new stuff. And so how can we do that quickly? And so, using our digital twin platform and our training simulations and our 3D modeling and all those kinds of things can kind of help there. And I think we have it's well acknowledged, everybody I talk to, there's a labor shortage in the industry that's not going away. So if we can find faster ways to train whoever we get on the line that's willing to come be a data center technician, if we can get them up to speed quicker, that's going to help the industry, right? So that's kind of one of the things we're focused on. From being able to use, AI in really cool ways to help the industry be smarter about how they do management, I think is a good thing. So, yeah, for sure.
I think the job and the training is a really interesting niche as well, because as much as people talk about the massive talent shortages, and if you know anyone who does recruiting in this space, they're constantly talking about the talent shortages on LinkedIn. But at the same time, one of the criticisms that a lot of data center operators, developers get when they're going in front of trying to get zoning is like, yeah, you're taking up all this water, you're taking up all this electricity, but for the amount of square feet that you're building, you're really not creating that many jobs because of the automation. Like if there was a traditional commercial or industrial tenant in there, they for sure have a lot more jobs.
Oh yeah, no, we all, yes. I mean, but there probably should be a good study around the periphery of jobs that a data center supports, right? So it's not maybe there's just the jobs in the data center, but all the services that are supporting that data center, the jobs that it creates because of there probably should be like a second level study done. That would be really kind of cool. I think that would be crucial for the data center industry from like a marketing perspective. Like, hey, we're not going to come, suck up all your power and not give you any jobs and give you, but they're getting a lot of sales tax revenue. I'm like, stop your whining. Like seriously, for what the data center area offers, Loudoun County is flush with cash, man. Like they got a lot of tax revenue from all those data centers sitting there, right? And so, I don't think it's actually necessarily an awful thing that you get a data center in your county, but I do think it's, yes, but it's not like typical manufacturing. It's just not, you don't, and I think honestly, typical manufacturing is not going to be where jobs are created either. I think we're going to have robots doing a lot of the manufacturing in the next 5 years. And it's going to go, there's not going to be jobs created because of manufacturing. Comparatively to where it was maybe even 5 years ago. Like typically in manufacturing, they're just going to get robots to do this, and they're going to create all sorts of robotic automations, and Tesla has a robot. Boston Dynamics is the OG in robots. Like they can build out a lot of things to do with robots, and I don't know why people even think that manufacturing is going to bring a lot of jobs. So I think the jobs are just going to change. It just is what it is. And but if I was a county commissioner in Travis County and they wanted to put 15 data centers here, I'd be like, yeah, sign me up, man. Stick them over here. We'll take them. We'll give you the land. It'd be great because they're just the revenue they kick off, right, from the amount of sales that they do. So yes. And then I think obviously there's always a power, and I think the data center industry has a PR problem. I think there needs to be a really good, every time I talk to a normal person that's like not in the data center industry, if you want to go talk to a normal person that's not in the data center industry, you get on the Clubhouse. And it used to be a big thing back in the day, and I used to be in Clubhouse all the time. And so you'll get just down to earth people that'll get in there, and they start talking about data centers, and that's what the public thinks about data centers. So the public thinks that data centers suck out all the energy. You get a data center in there, there's not going to be any energy for any of the houses. There's not going to be any more future housing development. The data center is going to take it all, right? That's what the public thinks about data centers. So I think there's just a little bit of a PR problem to understand that no, it's not going to happen. They're going to have to build a dedicated substation for it. So there's just no way on earth that that's going to happen, right? They're not going to housing. There's not going to be any more housing developments because of that. So yeah.
Yeah, that issue, the PR issues really brings up a really interesting trend I've noticed in the last year or two as well. If you think about the people I normally talk to in this space, the marketers, the sales, the account managers, it's normal that, for example, an operator has a persona that's like an IT manager. They may have someone who's an engineer or cybersecurity person they're selling to. They may have managed service providers they're selling to. It's only been in the last maybe 2 or 3 years that some of the really big operators have said, we're going to take 1 or 2 people on our team, and their entire job is doing great content marketing and great events for elected officials, for regulators, for utility companies, for activists, because they realize that all the traditional stuff they used to do with the community fairs and sponsoring Little League and stuff like that is not effective. But the challenge is to free up the space to do that. They have to stop doing something else. So,
yeah, for sure. We don't see it slowing down at all, right? I mean, we're going to have probably a data center here, there, data center there, data center everywhere. I mean, I think the job shortage still exists. I think the PR problem probably, hopefully it gets better, and hope people realize that, oh, by the way, do you like your Waymo? Do you like being able to store, photos on your phone?
Even Facebook and Netflix don't work well without data centers.
Exactly. So if you like these things, then shut up about the data centers taking all your power. Okay, that's fine. Just don't use Waymo, and don't stop taking pictures of your food and saving it on your phone. It's like, what do you want to do? You can't have both. I don't know. I find it hilarious. But as more and more AI adoption happens, and more people, I think it's a necessity. And I also think that the industry as a whole, I don't know, and maybe I don't see it, maybe I'm just too new into it. But understanding the infrastructure as a whole, you have a data center here, a data center there, a data center here, but as a whole, if we're looking at it holistically across the United States, finding, as people doing site selection, if we don't do site selection in a vacuum, and if we do it as people are, but that would require Equinix to talk to Digital Realty, and to talk to T5, to talk to Stack, to talk to Switch, right? They all have to kind of talk to one another, but to realize that they're crucial to how we work and live in the United States. They're crucial to it. that there needs to be a little bit of not regulation, but coordination, I guess, or something, because and figuring out how do we best handle the needs across the United States. And oh my gosh, did I just walk into it? No, I don't want the government meddling at all. I just would like, I think there needs to be a little coordination there. I don't know. Maybe I just opened up a big can of worms.
The funny thing from my perspective is they're all together all of the time. They're playing golf together. They're having the cabana parties poolside at the big conferences. They're doing all of this socializing constantly with their peers. So why are they not talking about this? Because some NDA said that they have to make small talk and.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, I don't know how you solve that problem, but you can see like if there's holes in certain areas. I mean, I'm sure somebody will come and by just law, supply and demand, somebody will come fill that hole, but I don't know. I just think it could be a little more strategically thought out, and we could just, analyze kind of from a national perspective. Oh, if you had more edge data centers here, that might make more sense, or whatever it might be. But I don't want the government sticking their paw in it at all. I think that needs to happen. I just think there may be a little bit of interesting dynamics there. But that would require everybody to start talking to one another and what they're working on, and they're all competing against each other. So it's, yes, in my utopian world, we would have the perfect data center infrastructure map, and it would all because everybody wanted to talk to one another and work together. But no, I know that's not going to happen. So, all right, never mind.
Even the utility grid infrastructure, I really have to wonder how it gets fixed nationally with dozens of different utility companies all doing the same thing. Like in Europe, when they're figuring out these policies that support like district heating and heat reuse and things like that, a lot of times they're able to do this because there's a lot more centralization of decision making and utilities and a lot more financial incentives. It's just way more challenging.
Work is so decentralized for sure. And and then the other thing too is, how many substations can we build? Are we going to run out of natural gas? Like, I'm really like, seriously, it just seems like, well, yeah, we'll go build a substation. We'll just make more energy. And I'm just like, but at some point, does it go away? I mean, do we run out of the ability to create energy at some point? Maybe not. I mean, they can all come to Texas because we're gassy over here. We got plenty of natural gas, like for miles. It's fine. But, I don't know. I don't know. Over time, is there logical sense to that too? Right? You would think there would be. You would think.
Yeah. It depends on who you ask. When I spoke to the company that's making the turbines for the generation to be able to hook up to natural gas, it's bottomless, or nearly bottomless, I guess, relative at least to the limitations on conventional grid. But yeah, all this will get figured out over the next couple of years.
Yeah, you would think so. Yeah. So this has been fun, man.
Yeah. Awesome. How do you think your role in leading these three different initiatives might change in the next 2, 3, 4 years?
I think the council is going to grow. It already is growing at kind of like a phenomenal rate. Like it's growing like crazy. Hopefully, as we bring on more initiatives, like we're doing a huge university initiative now, where we've got about a dozen to 20 universities kind of signing on to be a partner of the council. So that'll lead to a lot of different joint research projects and collaborations with the academic community. And now that our lovely government has decided to defund them almost, they're looking for these kind of collaborations, which is great. And if we can, from the private industry, help fund some of these research projects to pick up the slack, because we're going to need it. And we're going to be hurting in a couple of years if we just shut off basically the innovation engine of this country by defunding it. And, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But, and so private industry is just going to have to pick up the slack. So I think that's a great thing. I think the council, we already have about 20 cities that are forming chapters now. And I think we just kind of expand and grow. We have even in Mexico and Canada. And just other people, we have a lot of people from foreign countries that are joining the council because they want to get into the US market. So hopefully as we grow and scale and get more membership and make, bring in more revenue, I can just be a chair. We'll hire somebody to run this sucker, and I can just be on the board and be like, oh yeah, you guys go do that. That's great. I don't think it'll ever get there, but that's what I'm hoping happens. And then, but I think the council is obviously filling a need and doing really cool things. And we're building out strategic partnerships, a lot of the other like real estate associations and industry associations, and trying to be their technology arm, right? So like BOMA and ULI and the Green Building Council and IFMA, and I'm probably forgetting somebody. Oh, we built out a thing with the Smart City World Expo in Barcelona, and MIPIM, and kind of these different places where, we need to be aligned. You're serving real estate. We're the technology for real estate. We have all these working groups and all these different things. So we're working on that now. I just think it just grows. I think it becomes a larger organization. We'll have an international focus, and I think it stays. I think it becomes it is known as the trade association for the industry now. I got that like 3 months in. The whole thing. Someone dubbed it that. So that's great. But I just think it turns into something super cool, which I'm excited about. And if that's my legacy to the world, then I'm happy that I was able to do that for sure. But yeah, I think it becomes a pretty cool group of people, and it just keeps growing. And that's where I think it goes in the next couple of years. And then we'll kind of see where we have and then the coolest thing about this whole thing is right now we've built all of this with volunteers. Everybody that has wanted has come along and helped from a strategic standpoint, from our chapter expansions to our governance to our university program. They're all members of the council, and they're all volunteers given their time to help this organization kind of get up off the ground and go, which I think is phenomenal. And, we've had, branding and marketing agencies come in, and they're strategically partnering with us to help us with our mission. And I just think it's super cool. I think it's super cool for sure. Yeah.
It's a movement and a new category.
A movement and a new category for sure. Yeah, I mean it definitely needed to happen based off of the response that we got, and we continue to get. I think it's something that becomes really super cool, and we really want it to be asset agnostic. It doesn't matter what kind of real estate it is. We want to be the technology that when you think of the technology for that real estate asset class, that is the council, right? And we're helping there. So, whether it's data centers or multifamily or industrial or office or retail or hospitality or restaurants or life science labs or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We want to be known as that technology arm. And so building out all of those pieces there is come interesting. But it's fun. I like it. It's a challenge. You know me, I've already told you I like challenges. So this is just another one. So yeah, but it's super fun. For sure.
And keep doing the great work that you're doing with the data center news show as well.
Yeah, I love that show. It's so much fun, and it's hilarious because we get people like Howie or Curtis. Sean Farney comes on sometimes, and we just laugh. I mean, we have a good time on that show, and we just talk about all sorts of fun things, and usually are joking about something, this and the other, and you just after a while, sometimes you just got to laugh at some of the crazy things that happen. But it's good. And I've had a lot of compliments from people going, that show is great, and it's really substantive. It's like really like talking about real issues, and I learned a lot from that show. And I'm like, great, that was the goal. It's the goal for me every week. I want to learn a lot from that show. So yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, for sure. I like that show.
That's cool. Amy, I really appreciate you sharing so generously today. If someone wants to connect up with you, is LinkedIn the best place?
Yes, LinkedIn's the best place. I'm habitually on LinkedIn. And then they also can, they can go to Facilimax.com and reach me there, or PropTechCouncil.com and reach me there too. So either place, they'll get a hold of me somehow. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
We'll include links. We'll include the links to all three of those in the blog post and the show notes along with it, so people can get in touch and follow along and listen in to an upcoming Data Center News Show.
Thursdays, every Thursday, 1:30 p.m. Central is the place to be if you want to learn about data centers. It's the place to be. Yeah,
that's terrific. So I've been speaking today with Amy Polvado.
You got
Polvado. From the US Proptech Council and Facilimax and the Data Center News Show. Amy is based out of Texas, Austin,
Texas.
Yep. Austin, Texas. Thrilled to have you joining me today. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks. It's been great.
The Data Center Go-to-Market podcast is sponsored by DCSMI, elevating the role of sales, marketing, and go-to-market GTM professionals in the growth of the data center industry. To stay informed about upcoming episodes, make sure that you subscribe to the Data Center Sales and Marketing newsletter on the DCSMI website that can be found at www.dcsmi.com. Again, that URL is www.dcsmi.com.